Good evening, survivors, wherever you may be finding refuge on these once paradise shores. This is Richard Reeves broadcasting from what remains of Radio Bimini 103.5, the Island Beat. Our signals reaching out across the turquoise waters that once drew tourists by the thousands to these white sand beaches, now stained crimson with what we've lost. It's day 74 since the outbreak reached our archipelago. The Bahamas, once the jewel of the Caribbean, now a scattered graveyard of abandoned resorts and sunken yachts. The infection spread faster here than anyone anticipated. Perhaps it was the cruise ships that kept arriving even after the first mainland reports. Perhaps it was our own reluctance to believe paradise could fall. Reports are coming in from across the islands. Nassau has gone dark. The colonial buildings of Parliament Square stand empty, their pastel pinks and blues a mockery of the horror that fills the narrow streets below. A handful of survivors are transmitting from Fort Charlotte, using the old stone walls as protection against the hordes that roam through downtown. If you're in the area and see 3 green flares at sunset, it means they're accepting new people. But approach with caution. The harbor is lost. From the west, Grand Bahama is in similar straits. The once bustling Port Lucaya marketplace is now a killing ground. The infected swarm through the colorful shops and restaurants, drawn by any sound that might suggest life. Survivors report that the high-end resorts along the eastern shore have become death traps. All those glass walls that once showcased the ocean views now shattered entry points for the hungry dead. I received a handwritten note yesterday, delivered by a man who swam across from Eleuthera. He spoke of a group holding out at Preacher's Cave, using the natural rock formations to funnel the infected into narrow passages. They've created a community there, taking advantage of the freshwater lens beneath the island. If you can make your way there safely, follow the blue ribbons tied to the casuarina trees. They'll lead you to their scouts. A word for those of you sheltering in the Exumas. Keep your boats if you have them. The crystal clear waters that made these islands famous now offer your best chance at survival. The infected aren't swimmers, at least not coordinated ones. They'll wade into the shallows, but the deep channels between islands seem to confuse them. Use this to your advantage. The mangroves near Staniel Cay offer excellent cover, and the shallow waters let you see what's beneath. Just watch for bull sharks. They've grown bolder with fewer humans in the water. I'm receiving transmissions from Andros Island, where the dense pine forests and vast network of blue holes have become both haven and hazard. Survivors there speak in hushed tones about the inland waterways, the freshwater creeks that wind through mangrove swamps. They move only during daylight, using the confusing network of channels to evade the walking dead. The locals who once served as bone fishing guides now use their knowledge to lead people safely through the labyrinth of water and trees. Sorry for that interruption, folks. Had to deal with an uninvited guest. The building's secure again, but it serves as a reminder. Even places you think are safe require constant vigilance. The infected are drawn to sound, and our generator isn't exactly quiet. Here's a tip for those still with electricity or battery power. The Atlantis Resort on Paradise Island has backup generators that were designed to run for months. Several survivors have formed a community in the East Tower. They've secured the entry points and are using the massive aquariums for fishing. The tanks that once held exotic marine life for tourists' amusement now provide sustainable food. If you can make it across the bridge from Nassau, which is heavily blocked with abandoned vehicles, look for lights in the Royal Towers at midnight. To those tuning in from the more remote islands, Rum Cay, San Salvador, Cat Island, you may be in better positions than most. Your distance from the main tourist hubs has been your salvation. The infected are fewer there, but no less dangerous. Use your local knowledge. The blue holes and caves that pepper our limestone islands make excellent shelter if properly secured. The natural springs provide fresh water if you know where to find them. Some final safety reminders before I close this broadcast. Secure all windows and doors with whatever you can find. The infected are drawn to the sound of air conditioning units, so if you're running one, be prepared for unwanted attention. If you must go out, do so during the hottest part of the day. The infected seem to move slower in extreme heat, seeking shade just like the living. The beaches offer wide sight lines but little cover. Stick to the tree line where possible. For those on the water, remember that boat engines attract the dead for miles. If you have sails, use them. If not, paddle when near shore. The marinas are death traps now. Boats jammed together, narrow docks, infected crew members still aboard luxury yachts. Avoid them unless absolutely necessary. I've received word from a small fishing vessel that managed to reach our shores from Cuba yesterday. The captain, a weathered man named Ernesto, brought news that Havana's old city has fallen. The narrow streets of once vibrant Habana Vieja became perfect channels for the infected. The colonial architecture that drew millions of tourists now a maze of death and despair. However, he speaks of a community forming in the Sierra Maestra Mountains, using the same terrain that once sheltered revolutionaries to keep the infected at bay. If you're on the southern coast of Cuba, look for fishing boats flying red and white checkered flags. They're running an evacuation network. Closer to home, I have concerning information about Grand Cayman. The 7-mile beach resort area has been completely overrun. Those gleaming high-rises that once housed thousands of vacationers are now vertical traps. A survivor who managed to escape by paddleboard reported that the financial district in Georgetown is surprisingly secure. The banking centers with their reinforced security systems have become impromptu fortresses. If you're stuck on Grand Cayman, make your way there if possible. Look for a blue light in the window of the Ugland house at night. Just this morning, we intercepted a distress call from Providentials in the Turks and Caicos. A family of 4 has been broadcasting from their villa on Grace Bay Beach. They described the infected moving in coordinated packs along the shoreline at dawn and dusk, as if drawn by the changing light on the water. The father's voice remained steady as he detailed how they've survived by creating a pulley system to move between neighboring buildings without going to ground level. Their last transmission mentioned dwindling supplies, but ended with these words: "The water is still the most beautiful blue I've ever seen. Whatever happens, we found paradise first. To the Moran family in Providentials, if you're still out there, we heard you. You are not forgotten. For those taking shelter in Jamaica, the mountains may be your best option now. I've received reports that communities in the Blue Mountains have established effective defenses, using the steep terrain to their advantage. The coffee plantations high in the hills offer both seclusion and sustainable food sources. If you're near Kingston, however, the situation is dire. The harbor that once welcomed cruise ships by the dozens is now a floating graveyard. Avoid the port area at all costs. The concentration of infected there is unlike anything we've seen elsewhere. I have news from Puerto Rico as well. Old San Juan, with its narrow cobblestone streets and historic fortifications, has become a stronghold. The massive stone walls of Castillo San Felipe del Moro and Castillo San Cristobal, built centuries ago to protect against pirates and foreign invaders, now serve their purpose once more, keeping a different kind of threat at bay. A community of survivors has established control of the old city, using the cisterns beneath the streets for water collection and the old military quarters for shelter. If you can reach them, approach from the north side of El Moro at dawn and wave a white flag. They have spotters watching. For those in the Virgin Islands, I'm hearing that St. John has fared better than most. The limited development and vast national park areas have meant fewer infected. A group has fortified the Keneal Bay Resort, using its isolated location and multiple beaches to maintain both security and access to fishing. They're running low on medical supplies, however. If anyone listening has access to antibiotics or wound care materials and can safely travel, they're offering desalinated water and fresh fish in trade. The Dominican Republic presents a mixed picture. The tourist areas of Punta Cana are lost. Those sprawling all-inclusive resorts became impossible to defend once the infection took hold. However, in the interior, particularly around Jarabacoa in the Central Highlands, communities have established sustainable positions. The mountain rivers provide fresh water, and the fertile soil allows for crops. The problem is getting there. The roads from the coast are dangerous, swarming with infected drawn by the dense populations that once filled the beach resorts. I must tell you, not all hope comes without shadows. I'm receiving troubling reports about a new kind of infected appearing on some of the more remote islands. Unlike the shambling masses we've grown accustomed to avoiding, these move with purpose. Their eyes may be vacant, but their movements are deliberate. Some are calling them the waiters because they've been spotted standing motionless in the shallows for hours, as if waiting for something or someone to pass by. If you see them, do not engage. Wait until they move on, even if it means delaying your journey. From what was once the heart of Caribbean tourism, St. Martin/St. Martin, we've received accounts of true cooperation emerging from catastrophe. The invisible border that once separated the Dutch and French sides of the island has dissolved completely as survivors band together. They've established a community in the hills above Oyster Pond, using the elevated position to spot threats approaching from either side of the island. At night, they signal to nearby islands with mirror flashes. 2 long, 3 short means they're accepting new survivors. Continuous flashing is a warning to stay away. It's the small things, the fleeting moments of humanity that remind us of who we are, who we were. A man in Barbados takes to the cliffs of Bathsheba each morning, playing steel drums as the sun rises. The music carries across the water, a reminder that beauty persists. Those who hear it say it gives them strength to face another day in this changed world. The infected are drawn to the sound, but he's found a spot inaccessible except by a narrow path that can be easily defended. I'm told that in places where the infection is light, particularly the smaller, less visited islands, people are starting to find each other. Strangers becoming allies, friends, even family. On Bequia in the Grenadines, a former sailing charter captain has organized a flotilla of small boats. They island hop through the Grenadines chain, trading supplies and information, never staying in one place long enough to attract a crowd of the dead. If you see a catamaran flying a green pennant, approach cautiously and identify yourself. They may welcome you aboard. Rain has begun to fall here in Bimini, washing across our island, bringing with it the scent of salt and seaweed and memories of times when rain meant canceled beach plans, not life-saving fresh water. If you're fortunate enough to be in a position to collect rainwater, do so. The cisterns that sit beneath many of our older homes are more valuable than gold now. Before I sign off, there's something else you should know. A signal was picked up, faint but distinct, from what sounds like a naval vessel somewhere in the southwest Caribbean. They spoke in coded language, but one word kept repeating: containment. Whatever it means, wherever it comes from, it's proof that organized military units still exist somewhere out there, still fighting not just to survive, but to reclaim what was lost. These islands, once synonymous with escape and pleasure, have become places of desperate survival. The same white sand beaches where tourists once sprawled under umbrellas are now open killing floors with no cover. The crystal clear waters that showcased vibrant reefs now reveal the infected stumbling across the sandy bottom in the shallows. I have more news tonight, updates that might bring you a mixture of dread and hope, like so many things these days. From Trinidad and Tobago, reports are scarce but telling. The oil refineries on the southern coast of Trinidad have become death zones. The industrial facilities that once powered the island's economy now crawling with infected drawn by the noise of failing machinery. However, the mountainous northern range offers sanctuary. Communities have formed in the rainforest, using the dense canopy as cover. They move through the trees on handmade bridges, staying above the forest floor where the infected wander. If you're on Trinidad, head north, look for yellow markers on the trees. They'll guide you to safety. But nature, as always, plays its own game. The rainy season is approaching, and with it comes the threat of hurricanes. Be mindful of the changing weather patterns. The same storms that once caused tourists to reschedule their vacations now pose life or death challenges. Secure your shelter before the heavy rains arrive. The infected may be slowed by floodwaters, but so will you. To those who have found refuge in Aruba, Bonaire, or Curacao, The dry, arid landscape of these ABC islands offers its own advantages. The infected decompose faster in the heat, becoming less mobile over time. Use this to your advantage. The desalination plants on these islands were state-of-the-art before everything fell apart. If you can secure one, you'll have a sustainable water source. Just be warned. The tourist districts of Oranjestad in Aruba and Willemstad in Curaçao are overrun. The colorful Dutch colonial buildings that once adorned travel brochures now house horrors. Closer to the mainland, I've received word from Roten off the coast of Honduras. The diving community that once flocked there for the spectacular reef system has formed an underwater network of sorts. They use the remaining oxygen tanks and diving gear to move undetected through the water, bypassing infected-filled beaches to reach secure locations. Their base at Anthony's Key Resort remains defensible, the overwater bungalows accessible only by boat or the narrow walkways that can be easily monitored. If you have diving experience and can reach them, they'll welcome the help. A young voice broke through the static earlier today from Montego Bay in Jamaica. A girl, no older than 12 by the sound of it, speaking in careful, measured tones as she described life in what was once a luxury resort. She spoke of her mother, who still maintains a small garden on the roof terrace, growing herbs and vegetables in what used to be decorative planters. The girl's voice trembled only once as she said, "The swimming pools are empty now. We use them to catch rainwater. But sometimes I pretend they're still full, that we're just on vacation and everything will go back to normal soon." To that brave young broadcaster, if you're listening, hold on to that imagination. Stories are lifelines when everything else is falling apart. To those at sea or considering taking to the water, another caution. The marinas and harbors that once sheltered pleasure craft are now the most dangerous places on the islands. Hundreds of boats crammed together, narrow docks, limited escape routes, all create perfect hunting grounds for the infected. If you need supplies from these areas, approach by land if possible, moving slowly and keeping noise to a minimum. Better yet, look for isolated moorings, small docks, or anchoring spots away from the major ports. For survivors in the Florida Keys, the narrow island chain has become a paradox of safety and danger. The causeways that once connected the islands to each other and the mainland now act as funnels for the infected. Key West has been overwhelmed, the narrow streets of the historic district impossible to defend. However, some of the Middle Keys, with their lower populations and wider spaces, have established footholds. A community in Marathon has secured the Old Turtle Hospital, using the seawater systems designed for the rehabilitation tanks as both a water source and a defense mechanism. The infected can't cross the flowing channels they've created around the compound. This evening, as you gather whatever strength you have left, remember this. These islands have weathered hurricanes, earthquakes, and colonial wars. The ruins of old sugar plantations and colonial forts that dot our landscapes are reminders that nothing, not even the most oppressive systems, lasts forever. This too shall pass, though what emerges on the other side remains to be written. There is a story I want to share, one that came to me via a weather-beaten sailboat that docked here briefly yesterday. 5 strangers who found each other in the chaos of St. Thomas as the cruise ships in port became floating tombs. A retired naval officer, a resort chef, a taxi driver, a nurse, and a lighthouse keeper. Now family by necessity if not by blood. They spoke of how they commandeered a catamaran from the yacht harbor, learning to sail it through trial and error. Now they move between the smaller islands of the Lesser Antilles, never staying in one place too long, gathering what they need, helping where they can. Their message was simple. The sea is freedom. As long as there's wind, there's hope. If you're still out there, keep sending your stories. A message in a bottle, a signal fire on the beach, a transmission on whatever frequency you can access. This is how we stay alive, how we remember that these islands, though broken, still hold beauty within their shores. You are not alone. This is Richard Reeves, and as long as I can speak, as long as our transmitter draws power from its solar panels, you will hear me when the sun rises and sets over these troubled waters. Survivors, if you're still with me as dawn breaks over our archipelago, I want to share something important. Something that might give you a glimmer of the world that was and the one that might be again. This is Richard Reeves, broadcasting from Bimini as the first light paints the eastern horizon in soft pastels that belie the harshness of our new reality. The darkness feels endless at times, doesn't it? The night's broken only by the splash of infected falling into the water as they blindly pursue any sound or movement along our shores. But beyond that, there are whispers of something else, something human. We received a transmission yesterday from a place they're calling the Sanctuary on St. Lucia. It's a community established within the grounds of an old plantation estate near Soufriere, nestled between the famous Pitons. Those twin volcanic peaks that have adorned countless postcards and travel brochures. They've been quietly thriving for months now, securing the property's extensive grounds and utilizing the tropical gardens for food. Most remarkably, they've maintained the geothermal hot springs that once drew tourists, now using them for clean energy to power essential systems. Their message to those still fighting to survive was clear. The world is broken, but not beyond repair. The same volcanic forces that formed these islands can forge something new from what remains. It's easy to forget in the silence of these long nights, with the infected pressing closer with every passing day, that there's something fundamental we can never lose: each other. If you're listening now and have even one person to hold on to, remember, this is not the end of us. Not yet. I know the days are becoming harder. I know you feel it, the isolation, the loss, the weight of it all. But listen closely, my friends. There are still places, still survivors. You are not the last one standing. There's a location just south of Montego Bay, Jamaica, that has sent us a message as well. They're calling it the Beacon, a former all-inclusive resort that has been transformed into a functioning community. They've discovered that the infected are highly sensitive to certain light frequencies. Using the resort's extensive solar panel system, they've created a perimeter of blue spectrum lights that disorient the walking dead, creating a kind of barrier that gives them time to eliminate threats before they breach the compound. They're actively seeking people with agricultural knowledge, medical training, or mechanical skills. If you have expertise that could contribute to rebuilding and can make your way safely to Jamaica's northern coast, watch for blue lights pulsing in patterns of 3. That's their signal. I want to take a moment to remind everyone of the importance of your surroundings. Our Caribbean climate poses unique challenges and advantages in this crisis. The heat accelerates decomposition of the infected, gradually reducing their mobility over time. However, it also raises the risk of disease for the living. Maintain clean water sources, treat any cuts or wounds immediately, and if possible, use mosquito netting. The last thing any survivor needs is dengue or malaria on top of everything else. For those on islands with mountainous terrain, Dominica, St. Vincent, Grenada, many parts of Cuba and Hispaniola, elevation is your ally. The infected struggle with steep inclines. Communities forming in these highlands report fewer encounters, and those that do occur are easier to manage. The volcanic soil is fertile. If you can establish gardens, you may achieve self-sufficiency faster than expected. I'll leave you with one more piece of advice, one that's kept me going through all of this. Keep looking to the horizon. These islands have always existed between worlds, between continents, between cultures, between histories. The endless meeting of sky and sea reminds us that boundaries are often illusions. Beyond that line where blue meets blue, there may be answers waiting. Remember, you are never truly alone, even now when the world feels so distant. When night stretches on endlessly, you are part of something far bigger. Hold on to that knowledge that you are stronger than the darkness surrounding you. Together, we can rebuild. Together, we can fight back. We don't have much time. The infected, they're not just wandering anymore. We've seen them gathering, moving in ways we didn't think possible. It's like they're learning, adapting. Our signals must be drawing them somehow. I've just received an urgent transmission from the Sanctuary on St. Lucia. Their defenses are holding for now, but they've observed something disturbing. The infected are organizing, not just moving in random hordes, but establishing patterns, setting up what look like deliberate blockades on the roads leading to the compound. If you can make it there, if you can make it to the coordinates, then we might just have a chance to build something that lasts. But you have to move quickly. The coordinates are 13.827 north, 61.056 west. Remember that. Don't waste time. The infected, they're becoming more organized, more strategic. They know we're here. They know we're a threat. We've seen signs, patterns of movement that can't be coincidental. It's not just chaos anymore. It's deliberate. It's terrifying. This is an emergency broadcast. The following message is for survivors only. Warning: a new strain of infected has been reported across multiple Caribbean islands. These individuals are evolving, exhibiting signs of coordination, and have begun to show an alarming level of intelligence. We've observed them working together in groups, creating barriers, blocking harbors, setting traps. They're not just mindless wanderers anymore. They're hunting, searching for survivors. Effective immediately, all survivors are advised to stay hidden during the hours between dusk and dawn. The infected are most active during twilight hours. If you are caught outside after dark, your chances of survival are minimal. Move quickly, stay quiet, and do not engage unless absolutely necessary. We have discovered a potential defense tactic. Infected individuals seem sensitive to ultraviolet light frequencies. Bright, high-intensity UV beams can disorient them, though not eliminate the threat entirely. If you are near a resort or dive shop, look for underwater UV lights used for night diving. These can be repurposed as defensive tools. There is a community forming on Tobago, near Englishman's Bay. They're starting to organize to fight back. There's a chance we can turn the tide if we unite our efforts. They call themselves the Mariners, and they're building a stronghold using shipping containers from the port, stacking them into defensive walls. They need people. They need you, your skills, your determination. If you're out there, if you can hear this, remember what we've always known. Survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about staying human. This is an emergency broadcast. The infected are growing in number. We've received multiple reports of coordinated attacks, larger groups gathering around harbors and marinas, moving with purpose. It's no longer random. They're strategizing. It's critical you remain vigilant. Stay hidden during hours of darkness. The infected are most active after dusk and before dawn. The risk of encountering them is at its highest during these hours. Do not venture out unless absolutely necessary. We repeat, do not leave your shelter after nightfall. There's been a report of a new infected variant. These individuals exhibit higher intelligence. They're starting to form groups that utilize tools, rocks, sticks, boat hooks, anything they can find. If you encounter these, retreat immediately. They are not like the others. They're dangerous in ways we cannot fully understand. Avoid beaches and shorelines at dawn and dusk. If you are near a settlement, be cautious. Make sure you are not followed. It's believed that the infected are now capable of tracking survivors using scent. Be aware of your surroundings at all times. If you're not already moving with a group, now is the time to do so. We've received a transmission from a coalition in the northern Bahamas. They call themselves the Fleet. They're organizing a major evacuation plan, and they need help. If you're in the area, reach out immediately. They're building a flotilla of vessels, safety in numbers on the water, where the infected are at their weakest. It's a matter of survival. They cannot do this alone. There's been no sign of the virus slowing. The infection spreads faster than we can track. It's critical that you start collecting supplies, food, medicine, weapons, diving equipment. Anything that can help you protect yourself and those around you. You cannot afford to wait any longer. The infected are no longer mindless. They hunt in packs. They are smarter, more coordinated than ever before. Do not underestimate them. Important, if you have access to a generator, keep it running. Power is essential for survival. Those who control power control their chances. Light will keep the infected at bay. Use floodlights, UV systems, anything you can to create a perimeter. We are tracking more and more movements from infected groups on the larger islands. Reports from Puerto Rico indicate large swarms gathering around San Juan and Ponce. Avoid populated areas at all costs. Head to the mountains, the Keys, the outlying cays. Anything away from major population centers. Remember to move silently. Silence is your greatest ally when you're on the move. The less sound you make, the less likely you are to draw attention. And most importantly, never travel alone. The sanctuary on St. Lucia is still operational if you can make it to the coordinates. 13.827 north, 61.056 west. We've confirmed they are fortified and providing aid to anyone who reaches them. If you're near this area, head there immediately. This could be the last opportunity to join a surviving community. Be on high alert. There are rumors of infected exhibiting new behaviors, mimicking human speech, using gestures to communicate with each other. There's no telling how long it will take before they evolve further. If you see them acting in an organized way, do not engage. Move swiftly and keep a safe distance. They are adapting. We must too. Warning. The infected are not just growing in number, they are becoming more aggressive. If you are near a resort complex or marina, avoid them at all costs. These places are no longer secure. There are reports of infected overrunning safe zones. Cruise ships docked at ports have become death traps. We need help. If you are part of a community, now is the time to unify. If you have knowledge of technology, construction, or medical expertise, now is the time to contribute. Strength in numbers, skill, and unity is what will get us through this. This is not just about surviving, it's about rebuilding. If you can help, you must. You are not alone. We are not alone. As long as this signal persists, as long as we continue to broadcast, there will be a chance for survival. Stay strong, survivors. Stay vigilant. Together, we rebuild this paradise, different than before, but ours once more. This is Richard Reeves, signing off as the sun climbs higher over waters that still hold beauty and danger in equal measure. I'll return if the fates allow.